Oh yes, it's done. It's time for my Notion Second Brain tour. My epic yet minimal life operating system in Notion is complete, and what I'm most excited about is how simplified, optimized, and accessible it is, even on a mobile phone. Hi, it's Simon, and yes, in this video, I'll give you a tour of my complete Notion life operating system that I've built entirely in Notion, and show you how using it has massively helped me escape the overwhelm and focus on what matters. So in this video, I'll show you how I'm using it to track all of my tasks, projects, habits, goals, notes, budgets, knowledge, clients, and all the rest all in one place. Now, first off, a massive thank you to all of you existing owners of the template that have helped simplify and improve it through the beta period. I'm super proud of how comprehensive this template now is, whilst being so much more accessible and easy to use. Now, my focus has been on creating that simple UI and user experience, and whilst offering all of those extra features, and after 4 years of playing with it, I think we've hit the sweet spot, particularly with these new Notion chart features, and very shortly, we're expecting Notion forms. And yes, before we dive into it, of course, I have turned the whole system into a downloadable Notion template. So if you would like to shortcut to your ultimate ready-to-use Notion system, you can jump straight into using and adapting this via bettercreating.com/lifeos. I'm including detailed onboarding guide videos, section-by-section guides within the template, and of course, there's our Discord peer-to-peer community server where you can ask your pals and everyone else how to improve it and develop it to your needs. And at the time of filming this video, you can get 30% off the list price with my offer code LifeOS launch. So I've divided the video into some short sections on the timeline. We're going to cover navigation and getting started with a big Notion system like this, and then what seems to have become my packed system. PACT. P is for planning, goals, areas, and we're going to look at doing a brain dump when you get started. Actioning, super cool new task and project management features, reports, and time tracking features that I'm really loving. Capturing and organizing notes, references, and information, and tracking your life across habits, workouts, meal planning, prompted stoic journaling, and some budgets and subscriptions. And of course, there is a bunch of other lovely reporting views like perspectives and para dashboards. Let's dive into the tour. First of all, to say, I have kind of 3 versions of it. I have a complete Notion LifeOS bundle that involves an entire client and content section, which is all integrated with a much more advanced CRM, client portals. I'm really enjoying my kind of pipelines view of clients with projects and all of that. There's also a single version of each of these. So we also have Notion LifeOS, which is really for your personal work and life, or there's the client and content OS, and this also has its own task and project system, but you can then see that it's much more focused on content and client work, or of course that bundle that puts all of it together into one big system. If you do later on decide you want to jump on one of these templates, I would always go for the one that's already joined up, because it was a load of work. So let's just focus on the complete bundle. And the whole system is inspired by a couple of key principles. The Power method by Tiago Forte of Projects, Areas, Resources, and Archives, and the Getting Things Done method by David Allen. And specifically, both of these chaps talk about the idea of a second brain. It's a place you trust to hold all of your important information, ideas, notes, tasks in one place so that you don't have to hold them, meaning you can get on with the important stuff and getting things done because you trust this system to resurface things back to you when you need to see them. And I think that's pretty cool. But first of all, let me show you how the template essentially operates and allows you to navigate, because I really think I've built a kind of lovely UI to this system. So the simple thing, on each page, there's often a quick capture area, which has buttons to quickly add new items relevant to the dashboard. We've got a main dashboard here with kind of big views of, take for example, my life areas. The bonus of all of this is that it works brilliantly on mobile. So it means you can do things like click the big button and jump to a database, and then click on that database and be able to use it really easily. But then you can always click this little dot, which is on every page, which takes you home. But then if you're on desktop like I am here, I can then just also view things on the dashboard if I want to get an overview of everything in one place. We then have this menu that opens up on every page, which means it is a menu to see everything. So let's say that you wanted to jump to your goals and yearly planning area, you can do that. And then you go, oh, actually, I now want to jump to my journal. I can click and jump to the journal. and jump home. So I think this is a really lovely way to be able to navigate the template. Now, all of these views, you'll see these little arrows are linked views of databases. So they all could be deleted, moved around, and I really like that I focus on the main homepage to put everything in order of how often I would click it, basically. So this is frequent actions up the top, and then down the bottom, less frequent actions. And right down the bottom, you'll see I have a system view, and this is where the important stuff is, and you don't want to delete anything. I've got a view of all of the original pages that are referenced. There they are, if you ever needed to find them. And then the master databases, this is where everything is built, and it's all grouped so it's findable. The other thing I'm really proud of in this system is I've created an online guide. So if we click the template guide, it will take you through to a main template guide that I will be working on. And in here, I'm dropping all of these lovely onboarding videos, private videos that take you through the whole process of getting started. It's pretty obvious from this view that there is a lot in it. It could easily be that one would get overwhelmed. But what I love about it is that I think each of these views can kind of act as their own standalone template if you wanted. If you just wanted to jump to the meal planner and plan your meals, you could do that. Or if you just wanted to focus on journaling, you could just click to journaling. Same goes for, say, habit tracking. You can just jump in, see today's date, and do a little bit of habit tracking and see the reports come up at the bottom. Now, it's important to remember that a second brain like this is only as powerful as the habits and processes that you use with it. So I just want to show you a bit of the thinking behind it. But most importantly, I've put all of this in to offer it to people. You don't have to use it all. People should be picking, hiding, keeping, adjusting the stuff that they want to use. So our first section is about planning. So let's talk about areas and goals, because this is probably the top level place where we want to get ourselves set up. And it would begin with my life areas. And I've built these views and a list. Thank you to Ren, I think it was, who suggested adding a list of pre-formatted areas. The only one that maybe you wouldn't want is content creation if you're not a creator, but everything else is very usable. We've also got a top of mind area, which is its own thing, which is just a way of filtering anything you want to keep top of mind in your system by that area. You just link it to it and you'll always be able to see it on certain views, but we'll worry about that later on. But what if you want to add new areas to start with? So go through and take a look. You might want to click and add a new area. And in here, you might call it, let's say, pets. We don't need to view it in this side peek view. We're just going to shut it. And then once you open up a view, you'll see that each area opens as a full page and is its own dashboard, very much as you would expect to run anything. You're going to be able to see your tasks, projects, goals, notes, references. Pretty cool. So the first thing you might want to do is start adding some goals. So let's add a new goal to our career and business and just do top level things. So by doing that, we can see it's already making sure it's related to that area. So wherever you create something, it will be related back. There's a little example, and I'm writing it as if it's happened. It's a very good way to write goals. You always want to link it to the year, and that means that you'll be able to see it in the year relation, the year reports, which are over here, year summaries. And there it is. Now you can even, within this view, start adding tasks as milestones or even projects as milestones. And this just means you'll just link something in those databases to it, but we'll worry about that in a little bit, because it's also worth saying that your goals are of course on the goal setting dashboard, and here we can see it. Then down here, you might also want to look at this little view, build your wheel of life. So I've created a little wheel of life view, which allows you to link back to the life areas. They're all preset, some examples of focuses that you might want to focus on, and you can give yourself a rating of how well they're going. So let's say that my house is a nightmare at the moment because we're having some building work done. So I'm going to put that down to 2, and the wheel of life updates. You can also see your life area scores like this. And if I put that back up to 10, it jumps to the top and it all adjusts. So that's really, really cool. This is Notion charts. To have more than one chart in your workspace, you have to have a paid or education plan to use it. But when it comes to goal setting, there is this goals setting and yearly planner view, and you can work your way through these sections, particularly this fully guided process of doing a yearly review. You just start a new reflection. It'll create it. You can jump into it, label it with the year you're moving into. And there's this whole system within here that guides you through. I've got a full video on this that I'll link below if you want to follow it through. But let's just have a little quick look, if we open up our goal, at the idea of adding a milestone as a task. So this is create podcast series. Let's say one of them is to research some guests. I can jump into it. You might want to even link it to a podcast channel, for example, if you've got the bundle, and you can start to see the whole thing linking together as it might need to do, and give myself a deadline at the end of the month. And let's say I'm going to make myself do it on that day. And you're immediately kind of starting to see tasks drop in. Let's jump back home to life areas. And the next stage is what we might want to call the brain dump. Now, you can check out my part-time productivity video on the brain dump if you want to learn more about what it is. But essentially, we want to get everything out of our brains and dump it into the second brain. And so doing that, you relieve yourself of all of that stress and stuff to hold. And there's a couple of ways to do it in here. Number one, I would consider just going into each life area, let's say house and home, and just dropping tasks or projects within it. It's a really simple thing to do. So why don't we do new task? It'll pop up. And the minimum I would want to do for this quick drop would be decide with the priority matrix if it's urgent or important. If it's not either, it's low priority. If it's urgent, you can delegate it or it's quite low. If it's important, it's deep work. And if it's important and urgent, it's due now. This little daily priority view will also allow you to order stuff for the day. But once you're happy with it, you can just add it to the system and you are away. And if you wanted to do it as a project, let's say house and home could be kitchen build, we can drop that in and then you might open that up and drop within the project tasks within that. I don't use subtasks in this system, but I just think you use life areas, projects, and then projects with tasks. That kind of becomes your subtasks and it's a lot cleaner. And so in here, you can add a new task. So I'm going to drop my kitchen fitters in, and there it is in the system. That is a way to do things. We jump back home, go back to life areas. You'll then see we have a task and then direct projects listed within it. Cool. That's one approach, but you might want to start using this. And this would be the general way I would want to use this system to add information. And that is the quick drop inbox. Now, this is the thing that I would go to on my phone. I link a widget in iOS to the Notion page and I can jump straight to it and just drop stuff in at the bottom of the page if I want to. I can just do a quick to-do list and go call sister, for example, or you can be adding them in just quickly like this. And you can just dump everything in whatever order you like. I think this is the best way to do it. For example, I want to rewrite my CV. It's important and urgent, and I can just link it down here to a life area, career and business. And everything that's put in through this view will go in marked as in the inbox. You can do the same for notes, references, projects, and goals. So you could do everything here. And of course, we can take things and drag them and drop them in as well. If I want to link them to things, add due dates as you wish. Then once you're happy, let's say you've got a view here, you can just add these tasks to the system. That is filtering them and you'll be able to see all of the stuff turn up. So for example, this view, tasks and actions view, here's everything for today and overdue. There's my stuff I planned for tomorrow. You've got upcoming and everything else. And there's a ton of stuff like everything that's deep work, everything that's top priority, all assigned to me. There's just endless views that you can mess with. And there's that lovely priority matrix. And then down the bottom here, we also have our live projects and our planned projects. Anything added is just added as not started. Let's say we wanted to start our kitchen build. We make it live and it will drop it into this system. The only other thing you might want to be aware of is when you're setting up a new project, you will automatically get a last review date. And this is for the weekly review. We can set how often we want to be reminded to review a project. So if I jump in here and say that it was created on Friday the 4th, you'll see that immediately, because it's a 7-day frequency, this automatically is set to a week, it will say that the review is overdue. So if we go to the projects page, you can see down the bottom everything that's due for review. I can then set it as marked as review and it will hide, but of course you'll also see them up here and you can mark things as reviewed. These are the basics, I think, of getting set up. Add tasks, add projects, areas and goals, dump it all in and link it up. And you're good to go. Why don't we now take a little look at the next step? And this is where I want to show you some of the cooler features that I've added into my task and project manager. But my number one favorite setup on this has to be live time tracking. If we say that I'm going to start calling my mum, drops it into time tracking and it begins tracking it. Really cool. Well, if you're enjoying this tour of my complete Notion Life OS, drop me a comment below and let me know what your favorite features are. I'd love to hear and what else you'd like to see in it. And of course, don't forget to check out the templates, the Notion Life OS, the client and content OS, and the complete bundle over at bettercreating.com. But let's continue now with the tour. So let me show you how we are actioning tasks and projects day to day in the system. You only have to do the minimum, right? Anything that you just mark out of the inbox, it will drop into the rest of the system. But let's say say that you wanted to do a bit more. Here we've got test Pepper's new cat flap with microchip. So if I open it up, we can see in here the priority matrix views. So I'm going to make that as important and urgent to do. I want to link it to a project, and I have a little project in here which is cat flap installation and training. So I'm going to put that in. And you can also, of course, link it to your life area. We created our pets life area. Now, of course, you don't have to do all of this. It just means that you'll find them where you need to find them. The next thing we have is a due date. The due date is when you want to get something actually done. So let's say I wanted to actually do it on the 16th. And the deadline date is when it absolutely has to be done by. And I'm going to say that that is the end of the month. Now, daily priority is simply used to put things in order on your today view. We'll just leave that as it is for now. Then we have these, which are assignee. So you're able to assign it to yourself or to someone else. And essentially, it will always be assigned to you when you create something. And then there are views where you can filter by assignee. But this is my favorite part. This is essentially dependencies. So you can set whether a task is blocked by or blocking another task. Let's just have a little look at what else is on here. And you can even, within this view, show things that you might want. It might be nice to show the status view, and I could show its due date in it, for example. So in here, we have research cat flaps, which has been done. But what we do have is a purchase cat flap. So we need to purchase it before we can test it. So I'm going to select that as what it's blocked by. Now, this is really helpful because if we then went and did that other task and marked it as done, or to do that, you can just write complete. If we then go back, the report will have updated to say this task is now actionable. And we could say that this is going to be blocking Teach Pepper to use the cat flap because I want to make sure the microchip is working. And we can say that this is now actionable and blocking that. And it will also show you elsewhere, if we go back, say, into this view, you'll be able to see in certain views who is blocking you if it's blocked. And then once you're happy, you can just add it to the system. So each day I would go through and add stuff as I went, and then I would go through and essentially check that all of these were zeroed. And once I was happy that they were all zeroed, I'd be able to move on to taking action, which is where we do that over here. The views at the top, we have upcoming and everything else, where you can see stuff with no due date at all. We've got the next 7 days, and we also have tomorrow and today and overdue. So this just allows you to plan as you want. And if you say you want to actually go, I want to rewrite my CV tomorrow, you can just drag it up and drop it into position and it will add the date, essentially adding the filter. And maybe you don't get round to reading that building book, you could move it down to tomorrow. Or let's say I'm going to research my kitchen fitters and put it up here. Now, of course, we got things in progress that we've set this to start. And so once you are tracking things by them being in progress, you're able to then mark them as complete. So let's complete those. And then if we go to the tracked view, you'll see that we have a report of how long we took on each task. So it was 1 hour and 4 minutes since I set that up and 8 minutes since I set that up. Even cooler, if I go into my product business where that task is linked, we'll be able to see in our timesheet the results of everything we've tracked. And if you just want to track time against the project without any task existing, this will create a new working session here in progress. And there you'll see it coming up. So this is a way to just literally log time on a project that you may say have linked to a client. So if I wanted to link this to a client, let's say it's Better Creating, I'll then be able to track my time spent against that client. Up here, you will see a total time track report. You don't have to set things as to start if you don't want to track them. You can just mark them as complete. So if we now jump back to the action view, you're able to see what you're working on in your live tracking view. And in metrics, one of my favorite views within here is completed tasks daily tracker. And you can see a few tasks that have been marked as complete over certain days. And it's a really lovely way to track your progress. So if I didn't want to time track paying the electricity bill, I can just click complete and you will see this update to 4 tasks. There we go. And you can see that I've reported on how many tasks I have completed for the day. Great. I'm going to mark that as complete too. There's nothing going on. And you will see the metrics once more go up to 5. And in the same way, once a project is completed, you can just click project complete. As a final little tour of the views, we have all tasks assigned to you. And if you ever want to know what things are filtered by, click the little filter button. The only other thing to say is you may want to view this in Notion Calendar, and that's really easily done. You can go down to My Calendars, find your task by due date or task by deadline, and just click Open in Calendar. You will see that the database turns up. There it is. I'm just going to hide this other one. And it's a way for you to just put in a time to that item, open it in Notion, and you can see that we've now updated the due date time. So this is a brilliant way for you to time block within your calendar. When you're done, you can always click on the task database view, right click, and remove it from the list. Simple as that. So that is tracking and managing projects and tasks. The only other thing that I might mention here is around doing a weekly review. Just remember that each time you want to do that, you can jump into a weekly review system and check out what needs reviewing. So let's say I've gone in, checked everything on my podcast, mark as review, and we're away onto the next bit. A really good way to maintain your system and make sure that you're on top of everything in your life. I'm going to go out of order on my packed, and we're going to jump to tracking because I'm going to look at knowledge and capture a little bit later on around note-taking, clippings, all of that. But first, I want to show you why I'm excited about the new stuff I've been building in the tracking section of the template. This contains everything to track your life and work, including habit tracking, workout tracking, meal planning, and even a little bit of journaling using my prompted Stoic journal templates that are all coming within this template. And also the resources that we use to make all of that stuff happen very often involves money and subscriptions. So there is a brand new and absolutely comprehensive budget and subscriptions section. It's got its own dedicated menu. And what I love about this is that they can be flexible to do anything in your life, from a small house renovation project to an entire area of your life. First, let's do a quick demo of the habit tracker. So I took a bit of feedback from existing users on this, and my habit tracker is now super simple. The main thing that you need to make sure you do when you jump onto this system is you would want to make sure that the default template is set to repeat every day. And that means that we have a today view that will always pop up, so we don't have to use this button. And then we've got buttons down here, which will link to habits down here. Now, when we set up a habit, let's go into gratitude. We add a year, a start date, and an end date. So why don't we adjust this to start where we are right now on the 15th. And I'm going to do it for a year and end it on the 15th of October, 2025. We're going to set the frequency to 5 times a week, and it will then report on how many times we want to do that. We can relate it to a goal. So let's say become the type of person whose health comes first, and we're ready to go. You can also set a little implementation of when I wake up, then write gratitude and journal. Lovely. Now, there is our gratitude system. If we then go and select that we did it for the first time, it will add it to the day, and we will see the report begin, 1 of 260. We last logged it on the 15th of October, the start and end dates, and how many days are remaining. How cool is that? I'm so happy with this. I've also got this nice little high, medium, low productivity system, which is rather nice. It will just update whatever day we're on. And of course, while you're here, you can also journal. So here we can see guided templates for journaling, and you can write into them. And what's really nice, if you jump through to your journaling dashboard, you're also able to click journal and use any one of these pre-formatted templates. So let's say I wanted to do Tim Ferriss's fear setting exercise. I can just click fear setting, and within it, it will generate everything I need. You can see it's linked it to today, said the entry date. You can always change it if you wanted to adjust it. And here is our fear setting guide, and we can just work within it to do a bit of fear setting. You can see all the things you've done, entries this year, daily productivity listings. There's a whole load of stuff within it. And you can also see a view of that days database where you can see everything that you've added. And there you go. Everything is added and listed within that page. So that's habit tracking. I would suggest habits within this system are things that aren't workout or fitness, because we've got this dedicated workout tracker. Now, I really love how this works. It's particularly good on mobile. You've got records of fastest pace running and best weights lifted and when you did them, if you want to see them. And you've got a calendar of what you've done. But the main joy of this is in this system here. So we would start a new workout. it will generate a new page. This looks really good on mobile, as you can see here, and it allows us to just click buttons, enter stuff if you're at the gym or out running, time everything, and you'll get these records of what you've done. And within the view, you can see when it was last logged. I haven't done a bench press in 82 days. So let's do a bench press. The first thing we do, it tells us to start the timer to begin, is start the timer. It will tell us that our workout is in progress, and it will start and then put a time in. We can then start doing things. I'm going to click bench press, and you can just put your entries in. I'm going to say that I did 20 reps in 3 sets, and I bench pressed 30 kg. I'm making this up, I don't do a lot of it. We'll go back. We can see that we've now moved it down. We did it 0 days ago, and our best weight was 50 kg, so we didn't get that close to it. You can add everything in as you want. These ones will track times as well. So we could say we did a cycle and we did 60k. Let's say it was 240. That all drops in. So there's our workout session. We can then click end session, and it will tell us how long we spent on everything. The exercise is covered. Really, really cool. If we jump back in, you'll then see reports, and you'll have a workout time tracker, how much you've done, different items. It's pretty damn cool. Now, what if you want to track your meals? Well, you can do that here too. This is a new element to the system. You can add new recipes, set up what you want to do on certain days. Wednesday breakfast, I want to add the recipe of American pancakes, and you can plan out your week, and you can add new ingredients in here and recipes. There's recipe managers, and you can drop everything in, drop your method in. It's pretty cool. So that one kind of is pretty self-explanatory. So next on our tracking list, we should jump to our budgets and subscriptions. Now, I'm not going to go into loads of depth on this, but what you should understand with this system is that it allows you to do tracking of any scale. Now, I don't think this is a replacement for a full proper accounting system, but what it can do is it can work around projects. So for example, if we go into budgets, we've got a house renovation budget. Let's jump into that. And let's say we created it for our project, which we were already doing, which was the kitchen build. We can link it to that. And you're able to do plan items of income and expenditure. There's no income for this, it's just expenditure. And then we can track what we've actually received and paid in expenses. And then you can even track your invoices. So I could say that that's now been paid and that is waiting. There's even a button to create a new invoice, and you could even share this invoice with somebody if you wanted to. All pretty cool. We have a financial inbox where you're able to quickly drop income and expenditure as you might need to. And we have a subscriptions tracker. Now, I think this one's really cool. You can create a new subscription, say make.com. We can give the fees of what we're paying. Let's say it's $24 a month. Start date, let's say that was the first of the month. And then you simply need to set it to live. You can give it a category, and then you will see it turn up within your system, and you can keep track of it. It will give you a total cost of everything you're subscribed to. And of course, you can even then link this to, let's say, to my digital products. So this is a kind of quick overview of what's possible. We also have an archive of everything that has been listed in there. So it's a pretty powerful system, but my favorite use case for this is probably with projects, where you would jump into a project that you're working on. Let's say it's Pepper's cat flap installation. I'm going to add a budget for this and create a new one called Pepper's cat flap budget. Create it, it'll drop in, and we can then from here manage it by opening it up within the actual project and manage the budget of the project. This is super powerful, meaning you can budget per project, roll it all up into a financial year and get the results. If we now jump back to our Life OS and go into our year's summaries, you'll even see within our year's summary a roll up of the current financial year. That's a total of all the money going in and out of the system. This is the power of relations and how far you can take this. But let's not get overwhelmed. Let's now go back to our final area. This part is all about capture, and it's where the real power of a second brain is revealed, in how it allows you to gather information and be able to make connections between what you're working on, allowing you to make more out of what you learn and ensure it turns input into output. This is a super brief example then of how I'm doing that in the template. I first of all want to show you the databases that are involved. If we actually go to the system databases, this might be a nice place to show it for the knowledge base. We have notes and references as a database, and this is anything that comes in from external capture that isn't from your head, but you found it. And then we've also got notes, and I would say that these are things that come from internally from you. That might be meeting notes, ideas, thoughts, writing, whatever. They're all managed, if you look at my filter for it, within one database, so you can search it all at once, and they're either given a type of note or reference, which is how these views are created. So references, clippings, you can see here examples of stuff that I've brought in, and then notes, you'll see thoughts, stuff I've written. We've also got a lovely AI summary. If you have Notion AI, you can set it to update it, which I think is rather nice, particularly on things like references, where you can see it tells us all about what's going on. Then there are two other databases, topics and resources, and notebooks. Both of these don't actually contain information themselves. They allow us instead to group similar or linked information together for specific ideas. So for example, you might be linking to productivity and organization. If we open this up, we might see that we've linked essentialism and power methods into that, and my notes on learning Notion. Think of it as a lens to look at things through, much like areas are for your tasks and projects. So when you get started, you may want to jump back to the knowledge base, and under topics, you may want to see what topics are in there and create any other additional ones that you want. Notebooks, on the other hand, are really, in my opinion, places to work where you gather information, write, and in this notebook, you could even actually just write within it. So you've got these views of other stuff, but you could also just be writing stuff within that notebook. Or you might just not use either of these. I think topics are probably the one to focus on though if you want to sort information. If we look at references, you can see I have items that are either on reading list, so stuff you haven't looked at yet but have captured, live, stuff you're using, and permanent, which is stuff you're keeping but not looking at. So then you're able to group them together as you want for information you're storing in the background. But let's look at capturing notes of information, and there's a couple of ways to do this. First of all, you could do it on your phone. So if you go into iOS, you may find an item. If you click the share button and go and find Notion, you can drop it into the corresponding database. Don't drop it into the dashboard, or even better, use your quick drop inbox, drop it in there, and then you can use that as a way through. But on this page, it might be that I just want to create notes using the button, and then when I want to make something live, I click make live and it disappears from the inbox. The key to this though is to make sure you link items as you add them to different things, give them categories, and so on and so forth. But when it comes to references, you're not necessarily going to type them in, and that's where I think my favorite external tool for Notion comes in. If we jump to this example of Hell Yeah or No by David Sivers, this is a little overview I found. So I've got a couple of extensions up here. I've got Notion Web Clipper, which will allow me to save the page to the database, but my favorite is Save to Notion, another Chrome extension, and this allows you to create little inboxes, and I've built this within the app extension. It adds the information, but I can also pick the template type, I can add a category, books, related content, and this is where I can start making those connections. This is going to link to my newsletter where I want to write about it, and I want to link it to productivity and organization. If I then save that page, it saves it to Notion. You can go and view it, but even better, if we now jump back to Notion, we can see that the item has been added into the system. And if we open it up, we'll also see all of the information dropped in on the page. Now that is super powerful stuff. You can link it to anything you need, but it's pre-formatted all that information, which I think makes a massive difference. And I can jump back to it, add it to my reading list, and then when I want to go and start looking at what I've got, I can go to my reading list and go, right, what am I looking at? Oh, look, essential lessons for cats. And this is the thing, to keep this working, you want to make sure you keep making relations. I'm going to relate this to my cat flap installation build, so I've got that reference as I need it. And then I can jump to that project, and we will see in our knowledge base, we have information related to what we're doing. And this is a great way of making connections within your system. Now, it's also worth saying there are a couple of other options you might consider. There is, of course, Readwise, and this is a brilliant system that allows you to connect and sync and export highlights into Notion directly. This works really brilliantly with something called, you may have heard of it, Kindle. I also love using this with the Snipped podcast app. So anything that you capture on your podcasts can automatically sync into it. The only problem with this is that this won't go to these databases. What you would probably want to do is connect Readwise to your Notion account. It creates a Readwise database. You could then drop that in here and just add your own inbox and views of the Readwise connection. Just make that for, say, books and podcasts. You could link it in here, call this clippings, and you've got an additional system that you can use. Finally, let's talk about refinding information when you need to. The first one is to just say Command K and look for something, brand, and see all of the information you have listed. Another option is to go into the knowledge base and search within a filter. So you could go into filters and look at categories and maybe take a look at what books I have, and you will see books come up. The other option would be to search a database. Thoughts, I can find something, very nice. And finally, and probably my favorite, is using the Notion AI to ask, what do I know about essentialism? And here is a load of answers. And the great thing about this is you can see that it will search my entire workspace and find references to those different items. So here, look, if I jump to that, this is obviously a different part of my system, but I can see myself writing and planning videos out. And on that note, we should just talk now briefly about my content manager. So if you did take the bundle or the content and client manager, there is an entire content management system within this to manage clients and content. And we have a full set of views which will look at your content calendar, your channels that you're running, but particularly cool are these views here of your content management. I have these templates. There are full detailed breakdowns of how to make that content as well. So this is kind of also a bit of a knowledge base in itself. I'm going to give you a sneak peek here of something that isn't released yet, but will be when we hear about it. And I'm using Notion Forms to create a little ideas generator. That one's for another day. The other great bit of information that you should probably know about at this point is there is a full client portal system that allows you to manage clients as you would want to around a CRM, which allows us to look at leads that have come in. We can look at people grouped as clients, people grouped as collaborators, partners and sponsors. And one of my favorite things is the pipeline view, which will test whether there is any content or project linked to a client and marked as live and show it within the system. So you're able to track the people you're working with and what you have working. So if you went for that, I think you're going to love it. I'm really chuffed with that system. That gives you a little insight into it, but that is for another video. And while we're here, let me just tell you a couple of other little details down the bottom here, which I'm really loving. I've now created within the template a kind of drafted template to be your website portfolio, which Notion now allows us to publish as a website. You can click in, go to site customization, adjust the way it works and looks, change details, something to look at in the future. So that's rather cool. We also have a perspectives view. And if you are using Notion with Notion charts, there are charts of everything across the system: mindfulness and health, journaling and habits, money, action and tasks, views, projects, the knowledge. And last but not least, for those of you that use the power method, I have created you a dashboard view to look at projects, life areas, topics and resources, and down here, archives. So anything that is archived and hidden away. It's another way for you to search for stuff, drop it in the archive, and it's hidden down there and filtered out of the system. So that, my friends, is my complete Notion second brain. Let me know in the comments what you make of it, and I'll be back with a tour of my client and contact OS. So make sure you subscribe for that, and you can download all versions right now at bettercreating.com/downloads. Don't forget as well to use that code LifeOSLaunch to get 30% off the list price. On my website, you'll find a full set of FAQs, secure download options, and access to that community Discord server. So that's the system. But systems alone won't work unless you develop the right habits and approaches to using them in the first place. So I recommend watching this video next on how to embrace part-time productivity to do just that, or learn more about how to use Notion in general down here. Hit the like button, hit subscribe, of course, if you haven't, and I'll see you soon. Bye.